Secretary of the Interior David Bernhardt made his first visit to Montana as the head of the Interior Department on Friday. The Montana Ag Network's Lane Norland sat down with the secretary to discuss multiple issues that impact ranchers in Montana and across the West.
This past week, members of the Public Lands Council met in Great Falls for their annual national meeting discussing issues impacting public lands ranching here in the West. At the conclusion of the event, they had a special guest stop by from Washington, D.C. to talk about the issues that impact their way of life.
For everything we do, the folks that work the land and raise livestock, particularly those that engage in public land grazing, they're important partners for us. They're important partners whether it's reducing fuel loads, managing the range well, and we want to be good neighbors. The reality is when we look at conserving species, that requires the support of private property owners as well as the federal government. And so we, that at the end of the day is the fundamental question. We want to be a good neighbor with you, and we want to manage our lands appropriately.
Secretary Bernhardt also discussed recent modifications to parts of the Endangered Species Act.
And we've done that to, number one, make them more effective and work better, sanding some rough edges to the regulations that created some awkwardness. For example, we're making very clear that listing a species and delisting a species is based on exactly the same factors and considerations. That should make it easier to address those species that have been recovered. We also have created ways to tailor our regulations for threatened species to focus on those things that are problematic while not causing problems for those things that aren't. And so we think by doing that, we can have greater partnering on items like collaborating on open space and agriculture.
In 2018, grazing on Department of Interior lands produced an estimated $2.6 billion in economic output and 42,000 jobs. With that, the secretary said the department will protect ranchers' historic grazing rights.
My bottom line is this, that no one should lose any sleep at night thinking that we want to take away a community's opportunity or a rancher's opportunity. We realize fully how important it is economically for communities to have strong economies, and those economies are based on a diversity of economic activity, and we want there to be ranchers thriving throughout this country.
Ranchers attending this year's event welcomed the secretary's visit, but were also very encouraged knowing that he understands their issues that impact them here in the West. Reporting near Great Falls, Lane Northland, MTN News.
Thank you, Lane. And he says that Secretary Bernhardt also spoke on moving the Bureau of Land Management headquarters from Washington, D.C. to Grand Junction, Colorado, saying the move puts decision makers closer to the land and people they serve.
Hopefully